From silver, let's move on to another massively important product that colonization of the Americas helps to globalize, and that is sugar and sugar cultivation. Now, you can see from the map that Europeans really had no knowledge of sugar and no experience with sugar until well into the 12th and 13th century. And it's actually the Crusades that bring sugar to the attention of Europe. So during the Crusades, Christians from Europe are introduced to sugar as a sweetener and as a preservative by Persians who had initially brought it to the Middle East from Southeast Asia via the Indian Ocean Trade Network. So almost immediately, Christians from Europe began transplanting sugarcane to plantations in the Mediterranean around the 11th century. Now, sugar production is brutal work. Harvesting and processing the sugar cane into granulated and crystallized sugar takes extreme temperatures and a lot of manual labor. So slaves are not imported, they are captured and bought from Eastern Europe in order to keep the labor costs down. And pretty soon, sugar begins replacing berries and honey as the number one sweetener in Europe. But the demand for sugar in Europe quickly outpaces the supply. In England in 1319, sugar was trading for $221 a pound, which is what earns it the nickname white gold. So production in the Mediterranean cannot even come close to matching the demand for sugar. So Western European states are desperate to find areas where they can plant, cultivate, and grow more sugar. So as you can see, this begins happening in southern Spain, North Africa, and off the islands of West Africa in the middle of the 15th, late 16th century. But what really causes the global sugar trade to explode is that Columbus brings sugarcane with him to Cuba on his second voyage in 1493. Come to find out, the climate and rainfall and soil in the Caribbean and Brazil is absolutely perfect for sugar production. And pretty soon, sugar plantations start springing up all over the area. Brazil alone had 36 sugar plantations in 1550. By 1600, that number is up to 150. By 1632, that number is up to 300. By 1650, the Americas are cranking out 80+% of the world's sugar. And refined sugar, crystallized sugar, or sugar molasses becomes the top export from the Americas within the first 150 years of colonization. So this chart shows the sugar consumption of Great Britain, or not Great Britain, England, over this time period. And as you can see, in 1700, England is importing roughly about 10,000 tons of sugar a year, which is the equivalent of 3 pounds of sugar per citizen per year. Not unreasonable. By 1867, that number is increased to 625,000 tons and 47 pounds of sugar per person per year. So obviously the demand is still there, but now there is a relatively easy, accessible supply of it. And you can see on the second column from the right how the average price of that sugar declines over the years as it becomes more readily available. Now, one of the unintended but also necessary side effects of sugar production, as we already said, is slave labor. And a combination of brutal conditions and infectious disease destroy the native workforce in the Caribbean and Brazil, but the demand for sugar does not slack. So Europeans are forced to look elsewhere for slave labor, and they begin importing slaves from West Africa in the 1580s. Now, the high death rate in sugar production, which is between 5 to 10% a year, keeps the demand for slaves high, but also the increasing demand for sugar also multiplies the demand for more slave labor. And that's a relationship that you guys really need to make sure that you understand, that as the demand for these products increases, it multiplies the demand for labor to continue to increase production of those products, right? So as the demand for sugar increases by 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%, the labor, in order to keep up with the increasing demand, has to increase at a higher factor. So as sugar demand increases by 5, 10, 15%, the need for slave labor increases by 10, 20, 30%. So this creates a very vicious cycle within the sugar plantation industry. However, it's not just sugar, as we'll talk about in the next section. Cotton, tobacco, other cash crops require slave labor as well, but it is the demand for sugar worldwide that drives the slave trade from West Africa. Now, environmentally, sugar plantations are also a very negative have a very negative impact on the Americas because they require massive deforestation. The Amazon rainforest on average loses 12,000 square miles a year to sugar planting from about 1570 to about 1710, meaning that over the course of the colonization of the Americas, sugar plantations shrink the Amazon rainforest by close to 3 million square miles. Now, this level of deforestation in the Caribbean, which are much smaller islands, which with much less land available, contributes to soil and coastal erosion along those Caribbean plantations. The estimates are that the island of Cuba, over the course of its colonization by the Spanish, lost roughly about 14,000 square miles. That the island of Cuba was actually much larger than it is now, thanks to erosion caused by sugar plantations. Now, an economic side effect of this is that the high profits of sugar, for the most part, turn entire islands into plantations, which means that there is no food source being grown on the island. There is no other industry on the island except sugar harvesting and processing, which means that these island colonies are completely dependent on shipments of food and finished goods from Europe. And that inability to support themselves is going to severely hamper their success after independence. So even after they win their freedom from their colonial masters in Western Europe, a lot of these island colonies are going to continue to struggle pretty dramatically.